Hello, welcome to the Elevate Your Wellbeing podcast with me, Rachael Wagstaff. It's lovely to be here with you again this week. I want to dive into the question, are you feeling stuck? Are you feeling stuck? So we're coming up to the end of the year. If you're listening to this as this goes out every week, maybe this is going out and you're catching it when it is a time for you and you are in that space of feeling stuck. So hopefully this is just coming at the right time for you. But sometimes as the year starts to end, we can start to lose motivation or discipline or consistency, whatever you want to call it, and we start to feel stuck. And sometimes that can be how we're affected by the change in the seasons, and is making sure that you have practices in place that help you to stay showing up. So it's knowing what feels good for you, what helps you to feel good, and focusing on that. Because it can be really easy, really tempting to slip into habits that aren't necessarily serving you. They can feel good in the moment, but in the long term, are they really serving you? So if you're feeling stuck, so sometimes this is really interesting because actually at the moment when we feel stuck is when we're actually just about to have a big breakthrough. It's like something's happening, so it's in the works. But it's almost like when spring happens or when even autumn happens, it's just suddenly there are leaves on the trees and suddenly the leaves are all going red and falling to the ground. It just suddenly is this big sudden shift, yet we don't know that's just about to happen. So honoring where you're at and just sitting with how you're feeling and allowing any emotions that you're feeling to come through, whether that's physically or writing them out, or whether you have a movement practice that helps you to connect into that, whether you are aware that you're feeling stuck because you feel tension in certain areas of the body, that can be really powerful. But another thing is noticing, are you challenging yourself? Because sometimes we have these expectations or these goals, and then we get there, and then we do what's really good for us, which is actually pausing and being present rather than striving for the next thing. It's like done, tick, what's next? Instead, we pause and we're in the moment, but then we linger there a little bit too long. And then that's when we can get a little bit stuck. It's like, okay, this is really easy. I could do this with my eyes closed. And that's when we feel stuck. So stuck might not be a word that you use, but you're feeling a little bit fed up, or you're sort of, you're not able to be as present as you normally would be because you don't necessarily need to. It's almost like you can do it on autopilot, or maybe you're even feeling bored that what you're doing, you're almost like you want to break the system just to give yourself something to do. It's how can we create a challenge instead? Sometimes we don't need to break the thing that's actually working just because we're bored with it. Or sometimes we don't need to break the thing that's working because we just want something to do because we know it's a challenge to fix it, but we're not seeing it as that challenge. Sometimes we don't realize that we're ready to level up because we're not fully aware of that self-reflection and being in the moment. So how could you challenge yourself? What's something that you could do that could help you feel unstuck, or if you're in a funk, or if you're feeling fed up, or if you're feeling bored with whatever it is that you're doing, how can you mix it up? Because this is the thing, I know I talk about routines and how good they are for you to stay consistent. I love a good morning routine and evening routine and, showing up for yourself consistently in what you're doing. But sometimes those routines can get a little bit stagnant, and that's what can make us feel stuck. So it's how can you move things around? So you might still do all the same things, but you do them in a different order. And that can be a challenge because you're suddenly like, oh no, I'm slipping into that routine of doing that first and then this. There's lots of different ways that you can challenge yourself, or using yoga as an example, because obviously, yoga teacher as well as wellbeing coach, but it's that, okay, if you're always rolling out your mat and doing sun salutation A, that you're just flowing through, and sometimes you're just flowing through, so you know the poses, so you're not actually present in your body, so you're not necessarily listening to your body. So then sometimes that's when we can end up hurting ourselves or injuring ourselves. Why not mix it up and try a moon salutation or sun salutation B, or a slightly different flow that challenges us, because we have to think, okay, what's next? Or it challenges us in our body because we're like, okay, I have to really be present here, because if I let my mind wander, that's when I might become disconnected and then potentially injure myself, because that's how injuries happen, is that we're not being present, we're not being mindful, we're not in the moment. We're going through the motions, but we're not present in the motions. So what is it that you could do to challenge yourself? Could you mix up your routine? How does that feel? What comes up for you when that suggestion is given to you? If you're feeling in a funk because you're someone that does it all, could you delegate something? And I'm willing to bet there will be something that you could delegate. Sometimes delegation doesn't have to be in the workplace. It could be in the home environment. If that feels better for you, find what works for you. One of my mentors calls this, reach for the low hanging fruit. Go with what feels easy. What's the easiest thing that you can do, even when you're going for a challenge? What's the most accessible thing you can do? So as I said a couple of episodes ago, I'm going to try and do just some shorts, like podcast shorts. So, and it's just putting those questions to you. So this one is, if you are feeling stuck, you're feeling like you're in a bit of a funk, you're feeling a bit fed up or bored, know that this is normal. It's a normal emotion to move through, but it's honoring that's how you're feeling, and then seeing how you can move or shift or slightly pivot, tweak, change direction. So how can you allow yourself to do that? And sometimes we're not really sure because we have to zoom out. And again, this is where having a coach can really help you, because they can, for myself, I would look at what you're doing and see what I would do myself instead, and then give those as different suggestions or options or ideas. They might not even work for you, but that might then trigger, oh, what if I did it in this way? So it's amazing how having that additional help, and that might be where you challenge yourself, by actually asking for help, by getting support, by getting accountability, by having a cheerleader. So that's something that you're ready to challenge yourself to do, and invest in yourself and getting support. I would look in the show notes for the different ways that you can get in touch. So you could join the Facebook group, which is free. You could have a free strategy call to find out more. From there, that's where the coaching may be something that you want to do. And all the details are in the show notes. So I will love you and leave you and see you next week.